This is a recap of Chapter 6 of Certified Financial Planner Steve Smith's book, Power Up Your 401k. You can go to powerupyour401k.com to download the full book, or you can access the audiobook version there as well. And don't forget, you can find all the chapters read on YouTube, as well as follow ups for each chapter. So, Steve, we're following up on Chapter 6 of your book, Embrace the Bigger Picture. Certainly a very personal chapter for you. This is where you started to drop in some of your personal journey and stories and a little vulnerability, I have to say, about your beginnings and lessons that you've had to learn the hard way get where you are financially today, but also this kind of unique journey that led you to be a financial advisor. I find it interesting that you painted the picture that it's a little different than maybe where some financial advisors out there kind of find themselves into the industry. You certainly view your unique journey as an asset. Is it kind of interesting to look back now and be able to share that with folks and kind of look at your humble beginnings and be able to see how far you've come? And do you think that really gives you a leg up and an asset to help others achieve the same thing?
I do. Everybody's situation's a little bit different, so I'm not trying to say people are carbon copies of what I did. It just gives me a perspective to know when people do go through hard times or they didn't have the information necessary to maybe get to where they should be, to
Yeah.
have an easier road to the top. I just use this as a point of inspiration so that every morning I look in the mirror and I know why I'm going to the office. I know why I'm building this company and what the mission is. And part of it is to do what's in this book, and that's create the plan and help people get to that to the other side, meaning living on their investments rather than working for money. But more importantly, I want people to be able to be empowered to do that and not wonder why it didn't work out or what should have been or what could have been. Because in today's employer climate, employers even today don't provide help. They don't want to take on the risk of helping any of their employees. They put together wonderful 401k platforms, but if you don't know how to use them, it's like giving you a car without keys. What good is it sitting in your driveway if you don't know how to drive it or you can't? So my mission is to make sure that every employee, or at least as many as possible, have access to the right information. So come to my workshops and you'll get that information. And if you want personal help, we'll be there to back you up as well.
You started this chapter off with the story of John and his wife and how they demonstrated generosity even when they had little at their disposal. I'm curious, how does generosity influence somebody's mindset when they're approaching money? How can that coexist with saving for the future? These two things are very difficult because saving for the future means putting money in your own pocket and in a future pocket, where generosity to others is taking money out of your pocket. And you have these two competing goals. How do you coach people on that?
Well, generosity actually changes your outlook on the world and for the better. And it does seem a little bit counterintuitive. I agree with you. But what it does is it takes the control out of the hand of the wants and puts it into the hand of the needs. And of course, all those people that are generous, they take care of themselves and their family and they're setting up their future, but they make sure that they right size their lifestyle so that they can also reach out a hand to help, because that provides purpose. And purpose is really integral to being successful with money, knowing that it isn't all about me. And I think I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I say it live in our workshops, that if you live your life with a closed fist, even my dog Pepper knows exactly what that means, and she'll put her head down, right? But if I go like this, she knows she's getting a treat. And things can come in and things can go out. And that's what generosity is living your life with an open hand. And that kind of personal transformation will give you mastery over your money, so you will achieve those goals rather than your lifestyle constantly absorbing everything and just being gone.
A great bridge from that, I think, is then, that fist out is how a lot of us treat ourselves. We could get very deep and philosophical about this, right? But
Yeah.
forgiveness is a hard thing to do in this world. Forgiving another, forgiving ourselves can sometimes be a very difficult thing to go about it. And so,
Mm.
for those listeners and readers of the book, and viewers on the YouTube side of things, who may feel discouraged at the fact that they didn't make wise financial choices earlier on in their lives. How do you help with your past experiences and making some bad choices in your younger financial life? How do you help bridge that gap when you're talking to folks to help them realize that they can forgive themselves, that they can recover from past mistakes, and focus on that better future? What techniques do you use in your conversations to help people overcome something that's pretty difficult to do for many?
Depending on the story, it can be very emotional, that part of the conversation. But I tell everyone, is as hard as that seems, because it feels like a setback monetarily, there's lessons to be learned from that don't have to be relearned. If we take a look at what was and some of the mistakes that were made, then we can apply that to the future and say, hey, I'm not going to do that, and make it a transformational opportunity and keep it on the bright side. It's not about depression. I did it all wrong. Poor, pitiful me. That is not the conversation. It's how do we transform out of that? We don't want to repeat that. And we're going to make our best life now. We're going to transform into building a new future. So it's very important that people don't regret or have self-loathing about the past, especially if they didn't even know. It's just use that as a catalyst to transform into something greater.
I want to talk about a little bit more of your planning process, and in particular, the types of clients that you meet with. Are they from all different stages of their lives? And how do you tailor your financial planning to somebody who's just starting out versus mid career or nearing retirement? I know some financial planners really focus on just a very narrow scope, maybe of somebody's life stage. But with your unique build as an advisor, it seems like you're serving folks through a lot of different spectrums.
What's unique about our business model and helping employees in these large companies is that we can actually get involved much earlier. I would say, if we want to be a little bit stereotypical, most firms are kind of looking at that employee who's done a good job, maybe has that 7-figure or better nest egg saved up, and it's like, we'll help you live on that for 30 years. But I think a much better model and a much higher percentage of success of employees getting there is helping people in their 20s and 30s. In fact, I get much more excited, and we help everyone, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say we don't do something. We help along the whole spectrum. But if somebody in their 20s wants to take an honest look and make changes and plan for their 60s, 70s, and 80s, we can do some really significant, really neat things at a much lower price point than we can trying to help that mid-career person, depending on how well they've done, of course. I'm just making assumptions that they are a little bit middle of the road at that point, and changing some things at that point. But helping people when they're transitioning, that's a popular one too. People do it on their own, and then they reach out because they don't know how to live on it for 30 years. But the hard part about that is it's kind of all baked at that point. Maybe they could work in a year or two more potentially, or maybe they could live on less. But I really prefer that 20s and 30s.
Really unique when you're able to help people out a lot earlier on in life in such an impactful way. A last point I want to touch on in our follow up to chapter 6 here, circling back to something you mentioned a few minutes ago about the employers. And perhaps we can even speak directly to employers for a moment, because you mentioned that lack of retirement support from employers. And the reasons are I'm sure, wide for why that is. But what advice would you give to employers who want to better support their employees and try to help them with their financial wellness?
I would approach employers to really take a look at what is financial security. That's what I would ask the employers. and they'll probably go through, well, it means there's not as much fear, there's not as much worry, there's confidence. And if you apply that to employee behavior, a financially secure employee is a better employee, because they're not thinking about if the lights are going to get turned off next month, or if they're going to be able to pay the rent, or if they're a month behind on mortgage, because that employee is very distracted. And if they will just invest just a little bit in bringing financial education in without adding the risk, they can put somebody like our company on their 401k to accept all those recommendations and things they don't know about. But I would really have them contemplate a financially secure employee is a better employee.
Get the resources that can help you, and that can certainly be Steve Smith and the great team, of course, that's going to help you out and help you power your retirement. The book is Power Up Your 401k. Again, you can find the audiobook version, the text version of the book, as well as the video and YouTube version of the book, all at powerupyour401k.com. Great resources there for you to learn more about planning for your financial future, retirement, and everything in between. Chapter 7 of the book is what's up next. It's a short chapter to finish things up, but it's back to that concept of living life with that open hand. So go and enjoy that one. And Steve, thanks for the conversation.
Thanks, Paul.
This podcast is provided by Powerhouse Financial Advisors, an independent firm with advisory services offered through Parsonex Advisory Services, Inc., PAS, a federally registered investment advisor. The information provided is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered as personalized investment advice. PAS does not guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or suitability of this information for your specific circumstances. Investment decisions should be based on an individual's goals, time horizon, and risk tolerance. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and all investments carry a degree of risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any case studies, testimonials, or endorsements shared in this podcast are illustrative of individual experiences and may not be representative of the experience of all clients. They do not guarantee future performance or success. You should not infer any level of assurance regarding future financial outcomes. Listeners should consult with a qualified financial, tax, or legal professional before making any investment decisions. Parsonex Advisory Services, Inc. does not provide tax or legal advice. Be sure to consult with your tax and legal professionals regarding your specific circumstances. For a copy of our Form ADV Part 2A, which provides additional information about PAS, including our advisory fees and services, please visit powerhousefinancialadvisors.com.